2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire built a water delivery system so advanced, parts of it still works today. Hundreds of kilometers of pipes, tunnels, and bridges, carrying fresh water into cities that had never had it before. They called it engineering. We'd call it a miracle. But there was one problem. They knew about it the whole time. By the 1st century AD, Rome had more than 1 million people packed into a single city. And 1 million people need water. The problem was, the rivers were downstream of everything people threw into them. Drinking river water in ancient Rome was not advisable. So Rome needed clean water from somewhere else, somewhere higher, somewhere uphill. Here's the genius. Aqueducts didn't need pumps. They didn't need electricity. They just needed gravity. Roman engineers built a shallow, constant downhill slope, sometimes as little as half a meter drop for every kilometer of channel. And water just moved. Continuously. All day. All night. By some estimates, Rome was delivering an estimated 900 liters of fresh water per person per day. For reference, the modern Western average is about 300. At its peak, Rome had 11 aqueducts feeding the city. Some of them ran for over 90 kilometers, much of it underground, tunneled straight through hills. Where the ground dropped away, they built stone bridges, some rising 50 meters above valley floors. And some of those tunnels are still intact today. 2,000 years later, still standing, still sealed. Once the water reached the city, it traveled through pipes. And those pipes were made of lead, not by accident, by choice. Lead was easy to shape, easy to solder, and didn't crack like clay. The Romans called it plumbum, which is where we get the word plumbing. Wealthy Romans had private pipes running straight into their homes, sometimes quite literally stamped with their names. Personalized, prestigious, and slowly poisonous. Lead has one serious problem. When water sits in lead pipes long enough, lead dissolves into the water. And when you drink that water, it accumulates in your body over time. In hard water areas, calcium deposits actually formed a protective lining inside the pipes, which helped. But in soft water cities, the water stayed in direct contact with the lead. Modern isotope studies have shown that in soft water cities, the lead exposure was measurable. And Rome, Pompeii, and Lyon all had lead pipe systems. All three. Now here's the part that should stop you cold. They knew. The Roman engineer Vitruvius wrote about this in the 1st century BC. He observed that lead workers showed signs of illness, paleness, nerve damage, and wasting of the limbs. He explicitly recommended using clay pipes for drinking water instead of lead ones. He wrote it down in a widely read engineering manual. And plumbers kept using lead pipes anyway, for centuries. To understand why, you have to think like a Roman engineer. Clay pipes cracked. They leaked at the joints. They shattered when the ground shifted. Lead bent instead of breaking. It sealed cleanly. It lasted. For the problems Romans could see, lead was the better engineering material. The problem was, the slow harm was invisible. Vitruvius saw the acute effects in pipe workers. But the chronic, low-level poisoning of an entire population drinking slightly contaminated water every day for generations, that kind of harm has no visible moment. 3 cities, Rome, Pompeii, Lugdunum, what is now Lyon in France. Each one a masterpiece of Roman hydraulic engineering. Rome had 11 aqueducts. Pompeii had a beautifully preserved distribution tower still standing today, and 4 aqueducts feeding Lugdunum alone. And in each city built its lead distribution network from scratch, independently applying the same known problematic material, city after city, decade after decade. Modern researchers have tested it. Analysis of bones from Roman period sites in Lyon showed lead levels significantly higher than populations without lead pipe access. A 2019 Harvard study confirmed that water delivered through Roman lead pipes contained lead concentrations well above natural background levels. Now here's where historians get cautious. And they're right to be. Lead pipes were one source of exposure among many. Lead-lined wine vessels, lead-based sweeteners, lead cosmetics. But still, did it affect Roman decision-making at the top? Did it contribute, even slightly, to cognitive decline across the ruling classes? Genuinely, nobody knows. And look, to be fair to Roman engineers, they got an enormous amount right. The channels were coated in a waterproof ceramic plaster that kept the water clean all the way from the source. They built settling tanks to filter out sediment before it entered the city pipes. They designed distribution towers with outlets at different heights. So in a drought, bathhouses lost water first, fountains second, and private homes last. Pompeii's water tower is still standing today. 2,000 years of standing. Still there. Okay, we know what the aqueducts were. We know the lead problem was real. But the Roman water system still has a few questions that nobody has fully answered. Mystery 1. Roman aqueducts ran 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, without ever stopping. Which raises an obvious question. What happened to the overflow? The main trunk lines couldn't be turned off. There was no shut-off for the main channels. The water just kept coming. Overflow from public fountains ran into street gutters, which flowed into the sewer system, which flushed waste out of the city. The whole thing was one connected loop, waste being the entire point. What looks like a design flaw was actually a sewage solution. Mystery 2. Who actually built all of this? Enslaved workers, certainly. Contracted laborers, yes. But there's strong evidence that many of the aqueducts were built by Roman legions during peacetime. Soldiers weren't just fighters. They were engineers. And when there was no war to fight, they built infrastructure. The exact workforce numbers, though. Nobody is quite sure how many people it took. The Romans were not generous with that particular paperwork. Mystery 3. Most of the Roman water network crumbled when the empire fell. Nobody maintained it, nobody repaired it, and it simply stopped. But the Pont du Gard survived. And the reason is embarrassingly practical. It was repurposed as a toll bridge in the Middle Ages. People kept using it because it was useful, not as an aqueduct, but as a road. And the main arcade, the massive bottom tier, is dry laid without mortar, not restored, just standing, by its own weight, for 2,000 years. Mystery 4. And this one is just funny. Rome had one aqueduct, the Aqua Alsietina, that was officially described as unfit for human consumption. The water was brackish, murky, and frankly terrible. The worst quality aqueduct in all of Rome. So why did they build it? To fill a fake lake for staged naval battles. The Naumachia. Augustus wanted to stage mock sea battles for public entertainment, and needed a lot of water he didn't care about the quality of. Not a mistake. A feature. And Mystery 5. When the Ostrogoths cut Rome's aqueducts in 537 AD, the city collapsed. Not metaphorically, literally. Without fresh water, the population of Rome dropped from 1 million to around 30,000 in a matter of generations. The water was that important. And here's the strange coda. One Roman aqueduct, the Aqua Virgo, built in 19 BC, has never stopped working. It still delivers water to Rome today, including to the Trevi Fountain. The engineering outlasted the empire by 1,500 years. We still don't know the full scale of lead's health impact on the Roman population. We don't know exactly how many people built these structures, or at what cost. We don't know if Vitruvius's warning was ever seriously debated at a political level. What we do know is this: they built something astonishing. They knew one part of it was wrong, and they kept building anyway, because the alternative was worse. Rome's aqueducts are still there, some of them still running. A 2,000-year-old engineering decision that shaped how an entire civilization lived, and may have shaped how it declined. But not every ancient civilization solved the water problem the same way. Next time on Cracks in History, a water system 3,000 years old, built entirely underground, by a civilization that put the water source 50 kilometers away and made gravity do all the work. Parts of it are still watering farms in Iran today. Subscribe if you want to see how that works.